Hello, Andrew. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Mark.
Well, hello and welcome to MINExpo 2021. My name's Mark Cheshire. I'm Executive Lead Business Development for AMC Consultants, and I'm here on the AMC booth. And we can see that there's good attendance here at the MINExpo so far. We've had some really good discussions, and as part of that, we've got a live stream with Andrew Hall, Executive Lead of our advisory group with AMC. So what we're trying to do is understand some of the issues that are really relevant to the industry right at the moment. And Andrew's been giving some presentations recently. And what we'd like to understand from you, Andrew, is out of your recently completed analysis of trends in Australian underground hard rock mining, what are the findings that you really came out of that investigative work?
Great. Thanks, Mark. So yeah, happy to talk across that. So recently we did some analysis just looking at trends in Australian underground hard rock mining. And that analysis is drawn on AMC's smart data. And it's about the measured impacts that some of the recent developments in Australian underground hard rock mining have had on performance by comparing the changes in productivities and costs over time. So to undertake that analysis, we looked at two periods, two 5-year periods, 10 years apart. And we analysed the productivities and costs from those two periods. And I guess really why that's a good representation is generally it takes about 10 years for new technologies to be widely, implemented. So it gives a good approximation of what's actually happening in the industry. And specifically, we wanted to look at what the impacts of new technologies such as digitalisation and automation have actually had. Before I get into that, just a couple of words on smart data to give you context. So our smart data database contains detailed cost and productivity information on hundreds of mines from dozens of countries. The data is unique in that it's been independently collected, verified and compiled into standardised structures by us, so that the analysis is accurate and also the comparisons are like for like. So to give you an idea of the level of detail, costs are sourced from the site accounting systems and collected at one level above transaction, and time and production data is collected at the lowest level that's recorded on site. So in that way, we make sure that the data is valid and the comparisons are like to like. Right, so the key, activities that we looked at were for the underground hard rock mines were jumbo development, long hole drilling, load haul dumping, and trucking. So just some of the, the major things that came out of the analysis was that the jumbo advance rates have increased by approximately 40% over the past 2 decades. And the average Australian mine's now achieving in the order of 240 metres advance per jumbo per month in multi-heading development. An important component of that is that includes also ground support rigs along with those jumbos. The increase in development advance rates is largely due to 2 factors: an average increase in metres advanced per blast of around 25%, with the average round length having increased from about 3.1 to 3.9 metres today, and an average increase in penetration rates of about 30%. So the increased present penetration rates are largely due to an increase in average rock drill power, which has increased up to typically about 20 kilowatts today, which is up from about 12 to 18 kilowatts a decade or so ago. What's interesting in that is that while the increased rock drill power has resulted in faster and more accurate drilling, there's been no material change in average mechanical availability, which sits at around 80%, nor in average percussion utilisation, which sits at about 20% on average. We've seen similar results in long hole drilling, where productivity measured in metres drilled per rig has increased by about 20% on average over the last decade. And that increased drilling productivity has been largely driven by increased penetration rates, with the average penetration rate sitting at a little bit more than 40 metres per hour. And again, that can be attributed to two key factors, being improved technology in drill bits, which enable more ground to be broken per blow, but also the increase in average rock drill power from approximately 18 kilowatts in 10 years ago to around 25 kilowatts today. Similar to the jumbo drilling, there's been minimal change in the average mechanical availability, which sits slightly above 80%, nor percussion utilisation, which sits just under 30%. Just taking a quick look at materials handling, in terms of the average materials handling productivities, we've also seen significant increases, with the average loading rate for LHDs increasing by 15% on a tonnes per hour basis. And that has been primarily driven by the use of larger and more powerful equipment, with the average LHD bucket sizes used in Australian underground hard rock mines having increased to match the average increase in truck capacities of about 20%. And now we're seeing 60-tonne capacity articulated underground trucks as being the most common in Australian decline trucking mines. So again, interestingly, the average LHD mechanical availability at just over 80% and utilisation in the mid-50s haven't materially changed in over a decade. It is worth pointing out that the analysis is confined to long hole open stoping operations, so it doesn't include bulk caving operations or narrow vein operations. So I guess the key thing that came out of that analysis is that for all of the key mining activities, including jumbo development, long hole drilling, load haul dumping and trucking, mechanical availabilities and utilisation measured by engine and percussion hours haven't materially changed in over a decade. And that's a little bit surprising and unexpected, I guess, given the significant investment in digitalisation and automation in Australian underground hard rock mines. Which in theory should be improving communication and reducing operational delays, enabling maintainers to implement better predictive maintenance and respond to breakdown more quickly. So overall, on average, the non-productive time for jumbos and long hole drills is approximately 60% of total calendar hours. And for LHDs and trucks, it's approximately 30%. So 30% of total calendar hours are lost to non-productive time in materials handling. So some interesting results coming out of that, Mark.
Yeah, and those sorts of figures probably show that there's a lot of room for improvement still in all areas. And also it's interesting that you're getting similar results to the ones that we've had in previous surveys, and this longitudinal analysis is really important in identifying those trends. So have you got any ideas on really why this has happened and what people can do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, it is worth pointing out that while that analysis did concentrate on Australian underground hard rock mines, we do have significant data set covering North America, South America, as well as Europe and Africa and Asia. And overall, the Australian mines are more productive than in other regions, and certainly that non-productive time is even more severe in other regions on average. So yes, I think the key issues for underground hard rock mines is really around communication and making sure that equipment is has somewhere available to work, and when it's got areas to work, that it's working productively. And in underground mine, a lot of that stems down to having really good planning practices, really good communication with shifts and the crews, so that people know exactly what their priorities are, and are actually getting down and doing it. And that's one of the huge opportunities that's there for the underground hard rock mines today, is to cut into that non-productive time.
So So if we've seen the number of hours being relatively similar and productivity is improving, um, how's that impacted on the costs? Are we seeing reductions or about the same, or how's that really coming across in the bottom line?
Yeah, unfortunately, no, it's the opposite. So we're actually seeing an increase in underground mining operating costs. And our analysis shows that that's in the order of about $1.50 per tonne per annum over and above inflation. There's a number of reasons for that. Some of them are inherent. A lot of the mines that were studied through those periods are still going, and they've got deeper, more challenging ground conditions, and those costs associated with managing ground, but also materials handling from greater depths are having an impact on the costs. We have seen a trend to contractor mining over the last 15 years or so, and that's also had an impact. Contractors are certainly providing higher productivity, but at a greater cost. But overall, what it's actually showing is that, in chasing economies of scale with bigger equipment, increasing production, we're actually not reducing unit costs. And I guess there's certainly a case to be made that we could have better cost control, and that's potentially going to become an issue for a lot of miners in a different price cycle.
You, they're interesting results, and you mentioned before that there's mines across different countries and jurisdictions in the world. Um, how's the Australian long hole stoping mines comparing with some of those from overseas? And can you make any comments on perhaps some of the outcomes of those comparisons?
Well, yeah, certainly the Australian long hole stoping operations are the most productive in the world on average. There's a number of reasons for that. Part of it is that with the skill shortage in the Australian industry, they've adopted mining methods and practices that are highly productive, and that's been very, very effective. Certainly, the average Australian operation is using the jumbos to bore scale and bolt, and that has significant productivity advantages in most mines. It is mine specific, and not all Australian mines use that practice, but those rapid development advance is a major driver for the higher productivity, because it's bringing other stopes into line earlier, and giving more flexibility within the mining sequence. In addition to that, moving to, on average, smaller stopes, but more rapid stope turnover, with top hammer long hole drills has also been a major driver in that increased production. But again, being able to mine smaller stopes is also dependent on having rapid development advance, having development in place at the right time. And really, in that discipline over that mining sequence, I think is one of the key drivers for why the Australian mines are more productive.
Excellent. There's some really good observations there, and sort of leads on to one of the next topics. Is here at MINExpo, there's really a main focus on digitalisation and automation in almost every area of the mining practice. So, with that in mind, uh, what do you think are the most significant trends that are coming at the moment, and how we can offer solutions for people in some of these times?
Yeah, great question, Mark. So there's lots of really exciting technology around the digitalisation and automation, which I think offers significant advantages to underground miners, but the whole industry. I guess there's a few challenges in your typical underground hard rock mine, and today we haven't seen big inroads in terms of higher productivity from the use of that technology, other than the key important aspect and the primary focus around safety. So certainly the digitalisation, having better communication and response, is a major factor, and automation, particularly things like automated long hole drilling, surface teleremote loading, and those sorts of things that are the technologies that are removing operators from the hazard. And that's been, to date, in most underground hard rock mines, the big wins in terms of the use of that technology. I'm going to be a little bit controversial. I think there is a big push on the use of automation and digitalisation, and that's great. But to date, it hasn't made the returns, I think, that the industry probably should have expected. And I think part of that is the making sure that we're selecting the right technologies for the right circumstances. And retrofitting those sorts of technologies into an existing mine is really challenging. And some of that technology, particularly around automation, isn't sophisticated enough to be effective in what is a very dynamic, changing underground mining environment. So I think some of the people that are pushing those technologies are probably not fully across the environment that they're going to be working in. And we've actually seen a number of circumstances where those sorts of technologies, particularly around automation, have actually been uninstalled because they haven't worked. So it can be a really large investment, and people need to be conscious of selecting the right technology for their particular circumstances.
Yeah, I think there's a real case for considering the length of time to implement these technologies in the future. And we've seen some discussions here around purchases of new equipment, and there are some owners, clients that are delaying some of their purchases in anticipation of new technologies, and that's a significant risk.
Very much so, Mark. And sorry, you froze there for a minute, Mark. Yeah, look, the one thing I'd add to that is that, in my experience, if you're not using existing technologies well, it can be very difficult to successfully implement, new technologies. And I think the biggest opportunity that's around to a lot of existing operations is to make better use of the technologies that are there. Because as we've just seen in terms of non-productive time, there's ample opportunity and probably bigger gains in just getting the technology working better for them in their current environment. So that new technologies aren't usually a silver bullet.
Okay. Sorry, you there?
Yes, back over. Yeah, so yeah, we did. There was a bit of a technical glitch, but yeah, back over to you, Mark.
Okay. Well, there are some of the key items that we've been discussing over your presentation, and also things that are really on people's minds here at MINExpo. We've had some really good discussions about this with manufacturers of equipment as well as clients on the best way forward. And there's a real push at the moment to get quick gains, and it's really important that we have considered approaches to, as you say, ensure that the money is spent in the right way and we have good results and outcomes from the projects. Now, Camilla, if we got some questions on the chat. Just let me...
Camilla's just said that at the moment, no live questions.
Andrew?
Yeah, no live questions have come through yet, Mark. So remind people that they can post a question, or if if there's something you want to us to discuss, but also you can always leave questions for us afterwards. And a little bit of reminder as well that there's lots of content on our website. We're going to have a new website live soon, where the information that I've just presented will be published along with a whole lot more. So look out for that.
We've also got some other events coming along in the near future. So we'll be attending the MINEx Moscow conference in about 2 weeks' time. So people should look out for that event, and we'll have some more live processing to there as well, and making better use of this sort of format where we can call on experts from around AMC's 9 offices to provide input to these functions, and also online, and essentially bring people closer together. All right, thank you very much for your time there, Andrew.
It's
It's been a
pleasure,
pleasure
Mark.
to talk again.
That's great to see you at MINExpo, and knowing the conference is is up and running and going really well. So yeah, that's yep. Fantastic news, and yeah, so enjoy the conference and hope it goes well for everyone.
Okay, thanks very much. Talk soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks everybody for listening. Okay,
bye.
Goodbye.